Because he spoke very rudely.
Are we all set?
All right.
Everyone, please take a seat. I want to welcome you to our open discussion tonight. Should we regulate marijuana like alcohol? Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Inman. I'd like to thank you and the Gilbert Historical Museum for having us tonight. I am the Executive Director of MomForce AZ. MomForce AZ is a nonprofit organization for substance abuse prevention and natural solutions. At this time, I was going to say I'm very honored to share a stage with Bill Montgomery, our Maricopa County Attorney. But unfortunately, they decided to cancel this debate. I wasn't given any notification. I was given an email update by MomForce, and I had to contact the office of Bill Montgomery to find out why. At our second debate, there was some controversy about something that he had said to a veteran who is here with us tonight, who will make a comment in a little while. It did offend me. It offended a lot of us in the audience, and I was shocked to see the behavior from someone who is a public servant. And at this point, I was going to say that I was honored to share a stage with him. I still have a lot of our things with Bill Montgomery, and I have a lot in common. The one thing we don't have in common is marijuana and prohibition. Because of that, he's not my enemy. No human being is my enemy. I think we just have a difference of opinion. So I would like to invite anyone else who has that difference of opinion to step up tonight and voice your opinion. Ask your questions, because these are very important questions to ask. The reason that I originally asked Bill Montgomery for this debate was so that we could educate. And it would have been a very respectable, civil discussion between two people with two different opinions. I felt that both sides could learn something from this experience, and I'm very disappointed that they canceled. I do want to thank MomForce for the good work they do with teens, keeping kids away from drugs, because I'm all about that. I think it's very important to keep teens and kids away from drugs, including legal drugs, which I have on my fact sheet and we'll talk about in a little while. I'd like to address the issue of all the taxpayers' money that was wasted during this damage control that Bill Montgomery put out. There was a number of things on social media, Twitter, Facebook. I think it's a ridiculous waste of taxpayers' money when this fellow was the one who actually had contacted me to begin with. The reason we had set up this debate originally is because Bill Montgomery sent me a Twitter message at 10 p.m. on a Friday evening in February. This Twitter message was a link to a MomForce story, and it said, "This is what one mom says." Well, I didn't agree with what that mom had to say, which I don't agree with a lot of the information that MomForce puts out. That's why I'm called MomForce AZ. It's a counter to the bad information that's coming out from MomForce. And while they have a lot of good information, their direction seems to be focused on the adult use of cannabis and whether or not we should regulate in 2016. Now, while I like most of their work, I asked them about last year for a debate, and I asked them to please stay away from trying to change adults' minds on cannabis, because there's too much good information that we needed to share. I felt that we should work together so that we could give the proper education to folks, and we could possibly even stop and break the cycle of addiction. The people voted, and Bill Montgomery wants to support a federal law. And I do understand his side, but I did want to have both of our sides heard. So now I don't want you to just hear mine, but I do want you to hear the facts I was going to present to Bill Montgomery. Sheriff Joe was good enough to listen to me for 3 hours, so I honestly feel that we could have talked and had a nice discussion. After that tweet on that Friday night at 10 o'clock, I'll just wrap that up very quickly, we had a kind of little debate on Twitter. And so I said, I think this would be better in an open forum. I'm willing. And he said, so am I. Set it up, call my office on Monday. No other debates were scheduled at that time. I went ahead and called his office on Monday. I came in a week later and we had a very amicable discussion for 30 minutes in his office. We agreed to set this up. I said, where would you like to do it? He said, let's do it in Gilbert, I don't want to drive. And I said, okay. We got along very well. And then during that week after, I was reaching out to friends and people that I felt could help me because I've never been in a debate before. So I was pretty nervous. So I did reach out to my friend Mark Victor and told him what was happening. And he offered his help, but he also all of a sudden had a debate 1 week prior to mine, which was not scheduled and did turn up rather suddenly. I'm not quite sure why, but it did, and that's okay, because the more information that gets out, the better as far as I'm concerned. I had waited 2 years to get a debate with either Carolyn Short, Shelley Mowry, one of the gals there at MomForce. No one would answer me. So I was very excited about this, and it was okay. Took a little bit of the shine out of mine, but whatever. I love Mark. He's great. He's got a lot of great information. So we went from there. Next, I get an update from MomForce saying there's a third debate. Bill Montgomery has 3 debates this month now. So he's got one scheduled at the GOP headquarters up in Sun City, and it's in 3 days. So I sent out an email to our folks as well. Other organizations sent out their emails, and we got our folks there. Well, at the first debate, it was pretty much heavy on our side, honestly. And by the second one, Mark Victor has so much support in our community. It was overwhelming, I think, for Mr. Montgomery. So with that kind of crowd and that energy in that room, there were a couple comments that were made, I think, that probably upset him. And, he felt a lack of support. And then he stepped on his thumb and he said something disrespectful to a veteran. And of course, it's been on TV and all over the news. And so now we know why. Unfortunately, he made an effort to discredit me in canceling this. He pointed to me as a fabricator of information. We now have the film and the audio and the documentation of all of this. I've also sent emails to the Capital Times today. That said, I've been a cannabis advocate for 7 years. And the reason I came into this, because I felt I could save lives. I looked at kids in high school. I remember when my daughter was in high school, and I remembered my time in high school. And I realized, the kids that got in the most trouble, the kids that actually lost their lives to mistakes, took pills, and they drank alcohol. And then I looked up the statistics, and I thought, oh boy, marijuana never took a life on record. I had no idea about this. I just thought all drugs were bad and you just stay away from them. Well, here's one drug that seems to be very benign, and then all these other drugs are some of them are legal. We've got alcohol, we've got kids taking these pharmaceuticals in school and binge drinking. And I just never wanted another mother to get that call and said, your child is in the hospital, your child passed away because of a mistake they made when they were at a party. So I felt that an honest education would be best for our youth, that we tell them the truth and we save their lives. And that's why I became a cannabis advocate. What I've learned in the last 7 years is absolutely astounding to me, especially in the last few years since Proposition 203 passed. The biggest thing that's happened is that I've witnessed my friends coming to me and telling me as they became patients in Arizona, they got off their pharmaceuticals and they were replacing especially pain pills, especially these opiate pain pills that equate to heroin. They're replacing them with medical marijuana. And now we know that we lose a life every 20 minutes in America from opiate overdose. And we have something here that's got a bad rap, but is a good medicine and it's natural and it's never killed anyone. Pain medications equate to heroin, and then I found out that ADHD meds, the same folks that were getting off their pharmaceuticals, were looking at the stuff they were giving their kids. And they said, gee, I didn't want to put my kids on a daily maintenance medication anymore because I realized how much better I felt in my own life when I got off my pharmaceuticals. So we realized that in ADHD medications that these kids are taking, it's not specialized kids that are off to the side. It's 1 in 5 children in America that gets a prescription in this country. Whether they take it or not, the doctor's giving it to them. The doctor's giving them methamphetamine. If you look this up, you will see. It's absolutely noted at NIDA, the National Institute for Drug Abuse. That was denied at a MomForce meeting that I went to. Excuse me, it was denied by the woman in charge of the Arizona Youth Survey. I'm no expert on any one thing, but I've learned a lot of things, and I know 2 things in life. And this may shock you about me, but I believe that life begins at the moment of conception. And I know that cannabis has never caused an overdose death on record. And as a woman raised with respect for life, as a mom who wants to keep kids safe, and as an Arizonan for personal liberty and less government intrusion, I just can't ignore cannabis prohibition. So tonight we ask the question, should we regulate marijuana like alcohol? I feel I have a moral obligation to ask my Arizona neighbors to vote yes in 2016 for the following reasons. I have a fact sheet, folks. This is one thing that I didn't see at the last 2 debates, and I wanted to present to my friend and neighbor, Bill Montgomery. As you follow along, when you take these home, you can follow these links to good, reliable sources. They're the only thing I use. I will only use reliable sources. I was told by Shelley Mallory of Keep AZ Drug Free that, oh, all your information comes from High Times, and she ran off when I was in Fountain Hills speaking last year. And that's what she told me. Well, Shelley Mallory, here's my information. Well, MomForce, here's my information. Bill Montgomery, this is the reason you're not here tonight. Number 1, cannabis has never taken a life on record. Go to the National Cancer Institute, it'll break it down. Adverse effects. Cannabis does not affect your brainstem. Opiates and alcohol do. Your brainstem is what shuts down your heart function and your breathing. That's why cannabis has never taken a life on record. Alcohol indeed takes 88,000 lives a year. Pharmaceuticals take 36,000. This is the Center for Disease Control. Cannabis is not listed. In states where medical marijuana is allowed, overdose deaths from opioid overdose have been absolutely reduced. We have the report back there. We lose someone, again, every 20 minutes in America due to these painkillers. This is from the Journal of the American Medical Association. This report came out last August. Number 3, cannabis was not made illegal to protect public health. It was made illegal due to a competition between paper, oil, and chemical alliances and the upcoming hemp industry. We have the Cato Institute will break it down for you. It's a very good, reliable source. They have several links. This link will link you to others. USDA Bulletin number 404, 1916 told us about the amazing things that hemp can do for our economy and our environment. A few years later, it became illegal with the Marijuana Tax Act. In popular science, they hadn't caught up with this tax act that happened in 1937. They didn't know it was illegal yet, and they put out a thing called the New $1 Billion Crop, stating all the wonderful things we're going to do with hemp in this beautiful new wave of environmental beauty. Hemp, if anyone doesn't know, and you will know from these links, that it is amazing for our environment. It would do so many things, and it would prevent I believe it would prevent many of the diseases that we've gotten due to our exposure to oil and chemicals, and not to mention that deforestation over there of our trees. Moving on, National Cancer Institute also breaks down history of cannabis and cannabinoids. We're at number 4. Cannabis was used for thousands of years prior to prohibition and is the least addictive pain medication available. Pain medication. Pain's a big business, pain management. Big business. CVS. Yeah. CVS on every corner is number 5 on the Forbes 500. Folks are over-medicated with these pain meds. Least addictive, according to the National Institute of Health. Number 5 is America begins to regulate cannabis. Teen use is going down, amazingly. From NIDA, from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, Monitoring the Future report out also, I believe, last August. NIDA also reads a letter to teens. This letter to teens says, in plain English, teen use is way down, kids, since the mid-90s. Mid-90s is when we started regulating cannabis. Education and regulation has been the key to this. Number 6, nationwide we see a drop in violent crime as cannabis becomes legal. Go to FBI.gov. It just shows these charts. Boom, 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 years in the last 5, 6 years. our violent crime is coming down across the country. Number 7, according to the 2014, stay with me folks, this is beautiful. According to the 2014 Arizona Youth Survey, we have good news since our medical law passed in 2010. Teen overdose death due to binge drinking and pharmaceuticals is down, and that's what my goal was coming in 7 years ago. So I'm very, very pleased to see that. Teen drug use is down just overall. What else is down? Academic failure, the early initiation of drug use, our kids riding in the car with kids who are drunk and driving, our kids coming to school high and drunk, violent behavior is down, their perceived availability of drugs, their friends' drug use, their interaction with antisocial students. This one's huge, you guys. Gang involvement is down. And our teens' risk overall, down. What's up? Pro-social involvement, belief in moral order is steadily up since 2010. Family attachment and the perceived risk of drug use is still up. It's still up. They still don't want to go near drugs. And there's your link right there. You guys can see it for yourselves. Number 8, in Colorado, violent crime is down, sexual assault is down, and traffic fatalities are at historic lows. You can go to all these links and find this. It's right here. People are testing positive for cannabis DUI more often. Absolutely, but that's because cannabis is now legal in Colorado, and this substance remains inactive in your system for much longer than alcohol. The risk associated with cannabis and driving is still being studied, but the preliminary results seem to be showing little danger. Got a couple great links from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the National Institute of Health. A study specifically on driving with cannabis. Number 9, we're almost done, you guys. Federal government and the FDA-approved opiate painkillers have led our nation to a heroin epidemic. By putting cannabis and heroin in the same class as a Schedule I narcotic, kids tried heroin because they thought it was no more dangerous than cannabis. Doctors overprescribed pain treatments with the same opiates, leading good people to addiction and seeking street medication when the prescription finally runs out. We need honest education to break the cycle of addiction. 1 in 5 kids being prescribed a daily maintenance medication